Okay, that brings us to our final short paper. We have a team from University of Victoria, Canada, Sarah Davis leading with them, on considering context and comparing methodological approaches in implementing learning analytics at the University of Victoria. Thank you, Sarah.
Hi, so I am a research associate at Technology Integrated Learning, which is a division within University of Victoria. I'm also a third-year PhD student in educational psychology there. So today I'm going to talk to you about the pilot project that we've been working on for 2 years now at the University of Victoria. And as one of the things I'm talking about is context, I'll give you a little bit of context about the University of Victoria. So we're located on the far west coast of Canada, so on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. We have about 20,000 undergraduate students, 5,000 graduate students. We're a comprehensive research university. We have 9 faculties, and the LMS that we use is Moodle. So there are kind of 3 parts of our pilot project. So the part that So the part that we completed last year was a literature review on practices of learning analytics in Canada and internationally. And that has informed our current phase, which was applying for ethics and considering the different contextual factors and approaches that we can use to using the learning analytics data at our institution. And that will lead into the third phase, which I will talk about more at the end. So we had a couple of objectives for our pilot project. The paper kind of highlights more of the framework going into it, but due to time, I'm just going to kind of go into what we've done so far. So we wanted to look at what LMS data were meaningful indicators of student success. And we also wanted to look at how instructors' responses to a context survey could guide the analyses of those data. So the 2 parts that we're really looking at are an instructor context survey, which I'll show you, and then also how we can approach it through statistical analyses and machine learning. So the instructor context survey was guided by a review, the LIT review on indicators from a wide range of sources. So these are all relying usually on log file data from within the LMS, and I'll show you what these ones are. And also the knowledge of our LMS and previous research. So that citation is a poster that we did last year at LAK through my PhD hat that I also wear. So for our second phase, so this is practitioners, this is what we're doing, was the ethical approval of our study. This was kind of a lengthy process. I think it took about 5 months from beginning to end because we had to file a modification for that. And I had a couple of meetings with one of the research managers to let her know what learning analytics was. But I think that groundwork really helped for getting that approved. So the data that we have, we were able to get data from 3 first-year courses, 2 from the Faculty of Social Sciences and 1 from the Faculty of Science. And as we are doing this now, unfortunately, we don't have the data yet from the Faculty of Science because Professor understandably has other things to do than necessarily contribute to our project, but we will include that data at some point. And what was really informing this phase was from Ferguson and Cloud 2017, so really focusing on how the move is made from researching the data and gathering the data to optimizing learning. And we really wanted to focus on kind of talking about what we have done in this phase. So this is just an example of the survey. There were a total of 7 questions, including some open-ended questions, but I'm just going to show you the formed ones. And the writing's very small, and I don't have a pointer, unfortunately. So our LMS is called Course Spaces, but it's Moodle. So first of all, we just asked how important was the use of the LMS to your course? And the second question was, how important are all of the following components in your course? And these components were what we found in the LIT review that had previously been found as important and from our previous research. So, for example, you have discussion posts, reading course announcements, downloading the syllabus, viewing readings, viewing syllabus, and then we left some blanks for other that the professor could fill in what they were using in their course. And they also ranked it, again, on a 4-point scale from not at all important to high importance. The second part we looked at was how many days per week on average did you expect your students to use your course, ranging from up to 7. And then the second part was what activities within your site were required in the syllabus, were optional, or were not included at all. And 3 and 4 specifically were informed by the research that we did last year at LAK. And so again, so then the instructor just goes through and picks whether the item was required, optional, or not used at all. So then we did some cluster analyses without the surveys, but we used the results from the surveys to kind of tell us more about what was going on in these clusters. The first course was 371 students, and the instructor used the LMS for all course materials. So everything that this professor did in the course was online. And her data separated, once we fulfilled all the requirements for a cluster analysis, we had 27 variables, and it separated into 3 clusters of students. So this is the view, and I'm just gonna highlight a few things. So we have the 3 clusters on the left. The first number is the mean standard deviation, and then the 95% confidence intervals are underneath that. So you can see from the final grade in the course that they're within different grade ranges. And so for example, this course slide views, so these were how many times students looked at the lecture slides that the instructor put on the site. You can see that the first cluster of students were doing them more, and so on down. And the instructor rated this as highly important for her course, but it was optional. So she didn't necessarily talk that in the syllabus this was required. The books, so the books included course content, and also according to the survey, the instructor was uploading these course content books every week. So she rated these as moderate importance to succeeding in the course, and again, they were also optional. They weren't required in the syllabus. So the second course, again from the Faculty of Social Sciences, this course had 204 students. The instructor only used the LMS for grades, and he had a great quote on the survey that the LMS changes so much, so he just has all of his stuff on a separate website because he doesn't want to spend time updating. So I think those are important things when you're doing research like this, is to hear why profs are not putting their stuff on the LMS. So his data, once we fulfilled everything, was 6 variables divided into 4 clusters. You'll see that this data is not as, there is some overlap. You can see in the confidence intervals that there is some overlap in there. So looking at the grade book, so that's the only thing that students were doing in this LMS, he rated it as highly important, but again, it's optional, so it's not something that's required in the course. You can see that and then this one. The instructor expected students to view the course 13 days. So it was a 13-week semester, so he's expecting them to look at their grades once a week. There were some students who viewed so in cluster 1, they viewed the course overall 42 different days, and they looked at their grade book 53 times. But you can see that their final grade is pretty much the same as the other 3 clusters. And then in the 4th cluster, you can see that there were students who only looked at their grade book 3 times during a semester. So just to kind of wrap this up, so we compared the responses to the survey, and we were specifically interested in looking at the items that the instructor rated as highly important to doing well in their course, and we wanted to use that to guide running a hierarchical multiple regression. So for course 1, so this is the one where the instructor is using everything in the LMS. We separated out days course viewed because we had found that from previous research to be significant. So the first step had a R² of 0.171, And then when we added in the other 5 variables, we did the change in R squared of 0.291, so a total R squared of 0.462 for this model. For the second course, minimal R squareds because the only thing we're looking at is gradebook views, so you can't analyze data that isn't there. And so finally, successes and challenges. So we're really focusing on learning and instruction and how instructors can contribute to understanding their course. Again, for us, the unique days the course was viewed as significant, it has an asterisk because the generalizability may be limited for that. Machine learning approaches are yet to be done, but we will do that, and hopefully once we get the Faculty of Science prof in there. And just to wrap it up, so phase 3, we're looking at putting some sort of dashboard in there and how that will be interpreted or used or customized by instructors and students, and that's what we'll look at next year. And I like this little comic because I think sometimes when you're working with learning analytics, you think that nothing is ever going to make sense, but at some point you'll look back and wonder why you were thinking that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I forgot to mention at the start, this was a practitioner paper. Okay, so off we go. First question.
Thank you very much. I think this research into LMS data and behaviors is very interesting and has to be done, but what you've raised are some of the basic problems. Mm-hmm. 2 people who teach the same course, 2 faculty members, are going to have 2 vastly different profiles on the LMS, and there isn't anything generalizable between us.
Yep.
Other than perhaps heartbeat. We have to be fully online. Maybe you can compare my course to previous courses to see whether there's anything to say, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be working on this, but it just highlights some of the real challenges when you have the faculty who have such broad views of how they're going to utilize the learning management systems.
Yeah, and I would say that both of the professors in this are very interested in student success, and the professor's individual website is super comprehensive. He actually includes all of his course evaluation surveys from the past 16 years on there. So just because he's choosing not to use the LMS doesn't mean he's not interested in student success and helping students learn.
Okay, some more thoughts? So you mentioned machine learning on your last slide or so. What are you thinking about the roles that might play?
Well, I think right now, just because we have 1 semester's worth of data and we were looking at exploratory analyses, that's why we were starting with statistics. Admittedly, machine learning is not the strong point of our team, so that might also happen when we bring someone else in to support us with that. I think that part of why this project started was an interest in doing some predictive modeling. But right now we're really just trying to start with just what are some indicators within our LMS and how our instructor is using it. So that's why it's a future use, but we're still kind of establishing where we are right now.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, I have one more.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a risk of dashboard rejection, for want of a better term?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That you'll create a dashboard from the available things that are coming out of Moodle, it was, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But because the instructors have got such variable engagement with how they're using it, that it simply will miss the mark, and that's something that we're beginning to see within the literature. Yep. As people honestly evaluate how these things are going down.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts about trying to prevent dashboard rejection?
I attended a session earlier that was the meta-analysis of dashboards, and so I think we took some things away from that, and I think the phase 3 was what was planned when this project was started, but I think yeah, we'll have to kind of see what's out there and see what our instructors think of these results when we present them to them, and just kind of think about how we want to involve instructors and students and what feedback we can get from them. And yeah, exactly like you said, whether or not dashboards are where we want to go, or how we can kind of deal with some of the issues with dashboards from the user perspective.
Okay. Any other final thoughts? Otherwise, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Sarah. And thank you all for coming. It's break time now, but hopefully you're leaving having seen at least one user-centered design technique that you didn't know about, and thinking about how your own design process could become more user-centered. Thanks very much.